Now, why do I call my school Cropper Lyceum? Well, originally I was going to call it Aristotle's Academy, because it turns out that Aristotle is, I think, the most important philosopher in history, and a lot of people agree. It's either him or Plato, and I believe Aristotle's got it. So I'm naming my school Aristotle's Academy at first, I thought, because Aristotle's Academy's got two A's there. It's nice alliteration. It sounds good, and it pays homage to Aristotle and the fact that he is important as a philosopher in history, and my school will be using the philosophical tenets of a system that Aristotle originated. So I was going to call my school the Academy, and I decided, you know what? It's not going to be based essentially on Aristotle. He's just my inspiration for it. So naming it Aristotle's Academy is a little too much. Then there's the fact that Aristotle in ancient Athens operated a school called the Lyceum. That was the name of the school that he operated in Athens. Plato operated a school called the Academy. So I was going to name my school after Plato's school. Well, after thinking about it, I did decide to name it after myself and Aristotle's school. So it is the Cropper Lyceum for that reason. Now there's two books, if you want to know more about this situation, that you should read. You think you're interested, Aristotle's important to read, right? So you're interested in Aristotle and why he's important in history. There's two books that I would recommend. The Closing of the Western Mind by Charles Freeman. It's about the rise of faith and the fall of reason. It's about the period from about the birth of Christ, or a little before, to the 600s or 700s AD, and about how intellectualism gave way to mysticism, and the world sort of started shutting down, and Europe went into the Dark Ages. And the reason for that was because everyone was studying Plato, the closing of the Western mind. Everyone was studying Plato and expounding on Plato, and Aristotle was sort of forgotten and thought to be not really too important. Now, a guy named Albertus Magnus, 600 years after the Dark Age begins, Albertus Magnus is traveling in North Africa. And he himself is from northern Spain, southern France area. He's traveling in North Africa, and he comes across some translations of Aristotle in Arabic, right? From way back, Aristotle. I mean, wow, this is well over 1,000 years old. And he liked the stuff. It was commentaries by Averroes. So he took these back to Europe with him. And you may have heard of the guy named Thomas Aquinas, who was Albert the Great's student. Well, Thomas Aquinas was the great philosopher who introduced Aristotle to Europe. Aristotle came back into Europe, and what did we have? The Renaissance, a rebirth. Within 100 years of Aristotle being put back into Europe, we have great painters and sculptors occurring. We have the fall of church power and the rise of secular states. So it was a really important event to reintroduce Aristotle's philosophy and to get people off of Plato for a while. So we have the reopening of the Western mind, and I have a book on that subject here called Aristotle's Children: How Christians, Muslims, and Jews Rediscovered Ancient Wisdom and Illuminated the Dark Ages, by Richard E. Rubinstein, R-U-B-E-N-S-T-E-I-N. Aristotle's Children, about the Renaissance and the reawakening, the rebirth of learning in Europe. That's why I find Aristotle important, and that's why I've named my school after his school in ancient Athens, the Cropper Lyceum. Now, we're currently accepting interviews for students, as I've said before, 4, 5, and 6 years of age. The tuition, I expect, will be lower than the other private schools in the area, on the order of 10 to 20% lower. And I just want to mention before I go that I do have a channel called Cropper B on YouTube, where you can get a lot of other information about the school. I have many videos I've done on the subject of the school, and you can get to know me because there's about 30 hours of me lecturing on many different subjects.